Very heartbreaking news. Loudly crying face, the painful secret of BTS Jin. Loudly crying face, the heartbreaking truth behind his smile. The world sees the lights, the stadiums filled with purple oceans, and the smile of a man who calls himself worldwide handsome. But if one looks past the blinding flashes of the cameras, past the global records and the deafening cheers, there is a quiet human story that often goes untold. It is the story of Kim Seok-jin, a man who was not born a superstar, but who carved himself into one through a silence that was often louder than his laughter. To understand the magnitude of Jin, one must first understand the depth of the shadows he walked through to find his light. Long before the world knew the name Jin, there was simply a young student named Kim Seok-jin who lived a life far removed from the stage. Unlike many of his peers who spent their childhoods breathing music and dancing in front of mirrors, Kim Seok-jin had different dreams. He wanted to be an actor. He wanted to tell stories through characters, not through choreography. When he was scouted by Big Hit Entertainment, it was famously not for his musical ability, but for his striking appearance as he stepped off a bus. This moment, often retold as a charming anecdote, was actually the beginning of a profound internal war. Imagine the weight of stepping into a room filled with prodigies. On one side, there were underground rappers who had been sharpening their verses for years. On the other, there were dancers whose bodies moved with a natural fluidity that seemed impossible to replicate. And then there was Jin. He had no background in singing. He had no background in professional dancing. According to various media sources and fan accounts from those early days, Jin started from below zero. While the other members were refining their talents, Jin was learning how to breathe, how to hold a note, and how to move a body that had never been trained for the brutal precision of K-pop choreography. The early years were defined by a quiet, suffocating fear. It was the fear of being the weak link. In the fierce competitive environment of the training dorms, where uncertainty hung heavy in the air, Jin had to work twice as hard to achieve half the recognition. He was the oldest, yet in terms of skill, he often felt like he was trailing behind the youngest. Media reports and old vlogs suggest that there were nights when Jin stayed awake long after the others had collapsed from exhaustion, repeating the same dance steps until his muscles screamed, driven not by the desire for fame, but by the terrifying fear of holding his brothers back. There is a particular kind of pain in feeling that you do not belong. For Kim Seok-jin, this was not a fleeting moment, but a persistent shadow. During the early debut era, while other members were praised for their sharp rap flows or powerful dance breaks, Jin often found himself in the background. Critics and online voices sometimes questioned his contribution, labeling him merely as a visual. For a young man with pride and deep sensitivity, these words must have cut deep. Yet, Jin did not lash out. He did not quit. He swallowed the criticism and turned it into fuel. He took vocal lessons with a relentless intensity, slowly transforming a voice that was once unsure into the steady emotional anchor of BTS. But the climb was not just physical. It was a psychological battle that tested the limits of his endurance. The year 2018 stands as a stark testament to this struggle. At the Mama Awards, in a moment that shocked the world, it was Jin who took the microphone and confessed that the group had considered disbanding. Behind the glamour of their rising global stardom, the pressure was crushing them. Jin, the pillar of the group, revealed the fragility of their reality. He spoke of the mental burden, the exhaustion, and the tears that the cameras never saw. It was a rare glimpse into the heart of Kim Seok-jin, showing that his strength came not from being unbreakable, but from acknowledging how close they all came to shattering. Even as success began to pour in, the internal battle did not simply vanish. In fact, it evolved into something more complex. In 2020, when BTS reached the pinnacle of the music world with Dynamite, hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, Jin found himself in a dark place. Instead of celebrating, he fell into a deep slump. In a letter to fans released with his song Abyss, Jin confessed to suffering from severe burnout. He questioned his own worthiness. He asked himself, "Do I really deserve this honor?" He saw himself as lacking compared to the immense love he was receiving. This was not false modesty. Verified interviews from that period reveal a man grappling with serious imposter syndrome, feeling small in the face of his own gigantic success. The lyrics of Abyss paint a picture of a man holding his breath underwater, waiting for a savior, struggling with silence and loneliness. It is heartbreaking to realize that the man who spent every interview making jokes to ensure the atmosphere was light, the man who blew kisses to make millions smile, was secretly feeling hollow inside. He hid his pain behind the persona of worldwide handsome, using humor as a shield. Jin once admitted that he acts goofy and bright because he wants the others to be happy, even if he is hurting. This sacrifice, the burying of his own shadows to be the sun for others, is the true tragedy and beauty of his character. Yet, it is exactly this vulnerability that makes Jin so deeply loved. He did not become a legend because he was the best dancer or the fastest rapper. He became a legend because he refused to give up on himself. Fans often point to his solo track Awake as a turning point. In the lyrics he admits, "Maybe I can never fly," acknowledging that he might never touch the sky like the other petals. But then he declares, "Still, I want to stretch my hand out. I want to run, just a little bit more." This is the essence of Jin. He knew his limitations, he felt the gap between him and genius, and he chose to run anyway. He chose effort over talent. He chose resilience over resignation. His humanity shines in the way he cares for the members. He is the eldest, the math young, but he never used his age to dominate. Instead, verified stories from their trainee days tell of Jin using his own allowance to buy food for the younger members when they had nothing. He drove Jungkook to school, he cooked meals in their cramped dorm, and he became the emotional safety net for 6 other turbulent souls. He lowered himself so they could stand tall. He made himself the punchline of jokes so that the tension would break. This is a quiet, thankless form of leadership that often goes unnoticed, but without it, the BTS we know today might not exist. As the years passed, the boy who struggled to find the beat became a vocalist with a silver voice, capable of silencing stadiums with a single high note. His performance of Epiphany became a global anthem of self-love. Standing alone on stage, singing, "I'm the one I should love in this world," Jin was not just performing. He was healing the wounds of that young, insecure boy from the training dungeon. He was teaching millions that you do not have to be perfect to be worthy of love. You just have to be you. Even when faced with the inevitable duty of military service, Jin handled it with a grace that silenced critics. There was no drama, no attempt to evade. He released The Astronaut, a love letter to his fans co-written with Coldplay, and then quietly stepped away from the biggest spotlight in the world to become a regular soldier. Media reports confirmed that he excelled in the military, becoming an assistant instructor, proving once again that whether on a global stage or in a muddy training camp, Kim Seok-jin gives everything he has. Today, Jin stands as a symbol of hope for late bloomers, for those who feel they are not talented enough, and for those who feel like they are constantly catching up. According to various financial outlets, he is now a man of immense wealth and influence, but his true value lies in his spirit. He has spoken about his future not in terms of breaking more records, but in terms of finding happiness and living a life without regrets. He continues to dream, not of fame, but of becoming a person who can be proud of who he is when the lights go out. The journey of Jin is a testament to the power of staying. He stayed when it was hard. He stayed when he felt unworthy. He stayed when he wanted to run away. And because he stayed, millions of people found a reason to stay too. When you look at Jin now, do not just see the superstar. See the young man who looked in the mirror and felt fear. See the trainee who cried in frustration. See the artist who felt empty at the height of his success. And then, see the smile that covers it all. It is a smile that has been earned through 1,000 unseen battles. Kim Seok-jin did not just touch the sky. He built his own ladder, rung by painful rung, and climbed it until he became the moon that watches over us all. And in that quiet, steady glow, we find the courage to keep running, just a little bit more.